Well, welcome to everybody who's joining us today in our lovely webinar. Thank you so much that so many of you have actually registered today. It's lovely to see you all. And good morning to you guys in the US. Good afternoon to you guys near us. And good evening to our guys in the East. Yep, and I'm going to move over a bit. You're going to move over a bit there. I just very briefly wanted to tell you who is, I need to lean this way, who is presenting today. We've got 3 people in the room. You can see 2, my lovely colleague Mark on my side here. He's responsible for product management, product development. And come over here, Stefan. He's looking after PR and marketing. And me, my name is Anke, and I'm responsible for marketing and communications at IHSE. You know us because you've received our newsletter, so I'm not going to take a long time introducing IHSE to you because, you know, you've seen it all before. But I just wanted to nevertheless give you a quick introduction of who we are, just to refresh your memory maybe. We develop and manufacture KVM solutions, and we do that here in Germany. We're today also at our headquarters, and our production site is right at the back there. So it's all on site, and our R&D team 1 floor up. We, of course, have a subsidiary, a very big subsidiary in Singapore to cover our Asian market. And we also have a big subsidiary in the US, south of New York, to cover our US market. So you can find us pretty much everywhere in the world. We are about just over 110 employees now, so we've grown a lot. We've been around for 35 years. We kind of know what we're doing in this area. You will find our solution in mission-critical environments, in all sorts of different verticals. And like you said, Mark, they're all right behind me on this wonderful backdrop. Anyway, today we want to particularly talk to you about our IP module solution, which is called SIRA. And then you invented. That's so good. Anyway, this is not only relevant in today's age, of course. We all know how critical it is to be able to work remotely and to work reliably from remote, but also in any other kind of scenario is always relevant. So I leave it at that with a general kind of introduction. We've got in total about an hour for this webinar. I tell you later what the bits and pieces are, but I think we can drop right into your PowerPoint now. Would that be all right, Mark?
Right. Thanks for the introduction, Anke. Let's have a look back on the PowerPoint then, running the slideshows. What are we talking about today? And actually, SIRA is not invented by me. It was basically a cooperation with our marketing team because they were always looking for short things. So I said, well, what we've done is a secure IP remote access device. And secure IP remote access, taking the first capitals, basically lines up quite nicely to a girl's name, SIRA. And so we call the product SIRA, as simple as that. What is SIRA all about? Well, SIRA is, as it says, secure IP remote access. And we define secure IP remote access as the option to control far distant PCs down to the BIOS level, like with any other KVM system. So we're just connecting to the external interfaces, staying out of band, grabbing the signals, and making them available through an IP stream from a remote site. And we accompany the keyboard, video, and mouse signals, depending on the model that we're using, with audio signals and with USB data transfer. With SIRA, we're having the flexibility to connect basically from anywhere to anything. From anywhere is probably right because all we need is a network connection and a laptop or desktop PC running a browser or a soft client that we provide with the unit. And by that, we can access any source connected to the encoder, to the SIRA unit, or local area networks, campus area networks, or wide area connectivity. We try to maintain a maximum performance as it's known from our secure core type systems. So we try to be as close as real time. However, we define SIRA as being a gateway mainly to our matrix switching systems. And we want to protect our secure core from any kind of connectivity to IP. So we have structured SIRA as a kind of a secure gateway, isolating the IP world from the secure core. And by that, we try to maintain what basically makes us special in that market. We try to maintain the simplicity of the system. We don't want to add any kind of complexity on the network. You know, probably with lots of our market companions that are trying to do what we're doing with our Tracotera system over IP, and they claim always it's so easy to run these systems over IP. Actually, it isn't, because it requires the whole network infrastructure to be sorted out and configured accordingly for multicast setups, for IGMP queries, jumbo frames, a number of TCP/IP ports that need to be opened, and of course, high bandwidth demand and lots of other things that need to be taken care of, and then grabbing quite a lot of bandwidth. With our secure core systems, we don't care about bandwidth because it's simply there. So we are on layer 1. And breaking out that little bit stiff system and making it more flexible, running over IP was the goal, by, again, keeping the secure aspects. And we do this with very clever adaptive bandwidth control and without violating any of our privacy and the integrity of our client's intellectual property or data. So we use lots of methods like encryption, IP masking, different ways of authenticating against the system, just in order to prove that we can get access to the system, and by the time we have access to the system, that we are as lean as possible and as safe as possible when connecting to such kind of a device.
I think we've got a question now. We've got a question now, Stefan, haven't we?
Yeah,
So,
here's our first poll. Do you have a need for remote computer access via IP? Say yes or no.
okay, I think you heard him also. If you could just answer that, that would be brilliant. Don't take too long. It's going to run out of time. And I'm going to just see what you said, you guys, on the other device. Also to remind you, please click close. I think it's the top right after you've answered the question. So have we got the, oh yeah, look, right. 88% of you said yes, and 12% obviously the rest. 89 said yes, still counting.
Okay.
But I think that's a good result. That means we can carry on because they're interested.
Oh, I was just about taking the advantage of our sunny afternoon here and going out for a swim, but instead I need to continue with the presentation right now, I guess. So
well, he likes doing it.
So stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're going to continue with the session right now. So how are we going to continue? So let's have a look at the agenda of today. We're looking at the different SIRA variations that are in our offering. We're looking at the different use cases that we try to make possible with SIRA applications. We're looking into the connectivity details, so what kind of bandwidth do we need and what kind of options do we have with the system. We're looking into SIRA user station, and we are completing the session more or less with a live demo of what we've been talking about, just to give you a little bit of an overview of how the system looks like, how the system performs. And of course, we are not live with you at your site. We are remote, and we are using a video conferencing system right now. So be aware that the quality that you would receive in an online live demo at your location would be much better than whatever we are streaming here. But we've tried to make it as good as possible, and we will follow up with on-site visits as soon as times allow, and we're looking forward to that pretty much. And finally, we continue with
taking a breath. I just wanted to put a timeline around it for everybody so that they've got an idea. The PowerPoint, so the theory, if you like, is going to be about 20 minutes. We timed it for around that time. Afterwards, please stick around for the live demo, because that really illustrates well how the system works. And it took a lot of time to set it up. That will take about 10 minutes, and afterwards about 10 minutes for question and answer. So we should be finished at the top of the hour.
Yeah. All the questions that you raise throughout the session, we'll try to cope with in the question and answer session at the end. And whatever we can't answer right away, we will, of course, take care after the session in sending out answers via email or reaching out to you via phone. So let's have a look into the SIRA variations. SIRA variations, we start with matrix connectivity. So these are the encoders that we use being connected straight onto Draco-Terra matrices via CADX cable or via fiber optic cable.
You know, Mark, what would be brilliant here? If you could just show us what all these different connectors are.
Well, we can start with a power connector on the right, Anke. This is basically to drive the unit as such. And of course, as you can see, we're using our Vario series. So we're taking 2 slots within a Vario series, and we can fit the modules using our Draco system designer into a variety of our chassis that we offer. So we can even have multiple of these in larger size chassis. This here is the new backplane power 2-slot chassis with a redundant lockable power connector here. And we continue more or less with the 2 slots, and we have separated that quite nicely, I would say, because we start with a matrix connectivity on the bottom module, having options for CADX redundancy. We have a fiber optic version and, of course, fiber redundant in the same fashion as we see here, the CADX redundant setup. So this is basically our connectivity to our matrix. And from here, we're taking the signals, putting them into the encoder, creating the IP stream on the upper board, where we have the network interface in order to stream out whatever we've taken out of the matrix. And since we are not only streaming the system, we also allow for local output here, so we can operate this device as a normal console unit. And as soon as we connect from the remote side using any kind of remote client, we will share the session that we are running here through the network. I hope that makes it quite clear.
Yeah, thank you.
Pretty much the same as our standalone unit. The standalone unit basically differs from the matrix connectivity version only by the interface. So on this unit, instead of having the link interfaces to the matrix, we utilize a standard HDMI connector for the video, and we do have a USB connection right over here. Of course, we allow for the stream to be sent out via the network, and mirrored basically to the other side, we have the local feed-through port, which, by the way, can be disabled for security reasons with a setting within the configuration website of the device. So we can easily turn this function on or off depending on what kind of access level we have. So again, another layer of security. So how do they differ from each other? The matrix connectivity solution provides us keyboard, video, mouse, and audio access. It gives us a 2-level login. As I said earlier on, we try to maintain this unit as a kind of a gateway solution, and we try to achieve highest level of security. So you first need to authenticate against the gateway itself using LDAP or using Active Directory or local login parameters. And by the time you've crossed that gate, depending on what the setting is on Draco-Terra, you would have to sign in again or even not. And then you can operate the system using the full HD OSD type menu structure or simple hotkey commands in order to switch back and forth on the different target devices you are having access to and operate it just like sitting in front of it. The unit basically takes signals up to 4K 30 resolution and allows for embedded audio transmission. So whenever you connect to the matrix and you have an audio source coming on embedded signal, we are able to transmit that signal and output it on the remote side right next to keyboard, video, and mouse. Not only at one remote location, because we allow up to 8 remote sessions to be shared simultaneously. So 8 people can content and collaborate whatever has been connected to this unit via a link to the matrix. On the standalone unit, we offer additional USB virtual media support. The capability to shift over USB data or data via the USB interface, so we can mount storage devices at the remote side and have bidirectional data transfer from the client side to the target side. For the rest, we are almost identical, and on a slide in a couple of moments, I will explain you what we can do with this unit also once it gets into 4K 60 networks with our Draco-Terra matrix switching system.
I have another question, if I may.
Sure.
You know the orange grid where you said on the right-hand side, this one does USB virtual media. Why does the standalone version do that and not the matrix connectivity solution?
Well, the standalone version is mainly intended to be used on lights-out environments, so remote locations where single PCs are, where operators don't have access to. And then you have the necessity to patch systems or to transfer files in order to correct something. On the gateway side, with the matrix connectivity, we usually have stuff on site on a local level. And then we do have our matrix and secure core technology, and we just wanted to avoid having such kind of security lag, so to say. It doesn't mean that the other system is unsecure, because we can use device class filtering to lock down the USB data transfer. But in this case, we eliminated it completely when going through the matrix, because there are so many different devices connected to the matrix, and we don't want to have, by mistake, data transfer happening from one system to another.
Thank you, Mark.
So looking at the use cases, the typical layout in matrix connectivity shows the matrix set up on the upper left here with all the standard sources. By the way, this could also be a virtual desktop infrastructure device, so any kind of server connected via IP CPU into the matrix, and then being outputted to any of the normal consoles, and we can operate within the secure core in real time, and everything is absolutely secure. Up until here, to the local user of SIRA, this remains absolutely the same. And then we get this kind of firewall functionality, having the isolation inside SIRA, and then taking that incoming stream, encoding it, and sending it across the network onto a remote client that's running on a laptop or a desktop PC and connecting through the gateway and managing all the devices on the back end of the matrix. Pretty similar, it looks like, on a standalone device. The only difference basically is that we're connecting straight onto a target PC, again allowing for a local user and sending the streams across the network to remote clients.
So what do I do if I were to sit in a separate building, or if I'm at home? How do I do that?
Well, I think that's quite simplistic, and that's basically one of the things we've always been asked for, having such kind of a gateway integration. People wanted to use occasionally, mainly, our systems from remote locations with not a proprietary link. As much as you like the real-time access from a normal console unit, there's also a demand for the flexibility connecting even from home, like in broadcast or in industrial environments. We fairly often have support people that need to be on spots, being on standby, and in case something's happening, they need to have the shortest reaction time. And with SIRA, we basically don't need any kind of additional hardware other than, let's say, a laptop. So basically a mobile device that everyone carries with him, and a network connection, and we can basically tap into the matrix in the most secure way and the most efficient way. and then simply taking the laptop or remote device wherever we like. And since we are quite lean on the network without the complexity, as I mentioned earlier on, that's a key aspect, we can connect basically from home or from a different subsidiary into another location quite easily.
Cool, thanks. I love all your PowerPoint stuff. Particularly the curtain at the beginning. Sorry.
As I mentioned earlier on, we have the capability with the standalone unit to tap into 4K 60 Draco-Terra setups. So one of the key elements, especially in design or in broadcast environments, is not only to service and control PCs on 1080p, 1080p 60. We also like to have the capability to connect into 4K 60 environments. Since we have a limitation currently on the encoder with only 4K 30, whatever, it's not really a limitation of the device itself, but it's also owed to the network requirements, because we wanted to keep the network basically bandwidth as much down as possible. And the 4K 60 signal in a proper operation needs by far more bandwidth than a 4K 30. So what we're
show that with your
of course I can. So if I'm trying to access one of these 4K 60 machines over here, I can simply make a connection from here through an HDMI 2.0 console unit sitting here into one of these PCs, and using that console unit to do frame rate conversion from 4K 60 to 4K 30, and then feed it into that device, into the SIRA standalone unit. We are then able to grab the signal, we can encode it and send it across the link. And by that, we can operate 4K 60 matrix switching systems without sacrificing the local performance, because everything still runs on 4K 60, but it allows us to have a proper image at 4K 30 at the remote end, way beyond what the current video conferencing system, for example, is offering. So we can even bridge on high-resolution images from one location to another geographical location.